definitely appreciate being invited to talk about it because this is like my crusade with this medication because I think it can change lives in a good way. It's a healthy thing to do, but people just lack the education on how it works.
Absolutely. That is where we're like, she has to come in because there is so much misinformation out there. Hey guys, welcome back to the AA Skin Babes pod. I'm your host, Lena. I'm a licensed esthetician. I have Heather Taylor.
I'm Heather Taylor, nurse injector.
And we have a couple new faces with us for this podcast. Kristen's not here today, but we have Anna. Say your last name again for me, please. Vandeveld.
Hi.
She is new with AA Med Spa. She's also, this is week 2 for you, but you guys will be seeing
very new.
a lot more of her. She'll start coming in and getting used to the whole podcast thing. And we also have another face, and our special guest today is Kim.
Hi, I am Kim Losik. I am a nurse practitioner. I'm the owner and medical director for Horizon Med Spa and Wellness. We have a location in Shawnee, and we're building a second location on the plaza presently.
Oh, wow.
And she's got a lot of Kristen has gone to see you and everything, and
Correct.
she's like, she is awesome. We have to put her on the podcast. So that is why we have Kim here today. So you're Kim, you're a nurse practitioner. What all do you do?
So we kind of have 2 sides to our business. So it's med spa and wellness. So we have the medical aesthetic side. So we do injectables, facials, chemical peels, radio frequency, microneedling, so on and so forth. But we also offer wellness. Wellness would include medical weight loss, hormone replacement therapy. We talk about gut health and cortisol levels.
Very cool.
Yeah, and so that's why this episode has been highly requested by a lot of people. It's going to be a lot about the medical weight loss side of your practice. So what is medical weight loss?
So medical weight loss is using a prescription medication to help people lose unwanted weight. It is supervised by a healthcare provider like a physician, nurse practitioner, a PA.
Do you know much? I mean, you're also a nurse practitioner, right? That's
Nurse. RN, yeah. So I don't offer the weight loss medications, just injectable vitamin therapy. Yep.
Okay. So, because a lot of our questions here is like, why doesn't Heather do this and stuff? So I was kind of wanting to get on that difference here of why we don't do it and why she does. That kind of makes it really good. Mm-hmm. So
part of the reason why I don't do it is because I don't have the time.
Yeah.
My medical director offers that. And so that's just, I really don't have the time to incorporate that into my things. But
I personally don't know a lot about it, but I do know there's several types, like several different.
There are different. So probably the one that's the most common right now, the one that everybody's talking about is GLP-1s. That's the category. People would know it as Wegovy, Ozempic, tirzepatide, semaglutide, Mounjaro. These are all in a similar drug class. And that is what's kind of like on the, everybody's talking about it. Lots of people are taking it. Mm-hmm. Prior to that, we really just had different types of oral medication. And I could, for the sake of time, I'm not going to go through each one of them. Just know that prior to GLP-1s, medical weight loss was something that was very frustrating for patients and healthcare providers because it didn't offer a huge amount of benefit without a significant amount of cost or downside to it. Mm-hmm. So the way that GLP-1s work, they were originally designed for diabetics, and how they work in terms of weight loss is it slows gastric emptying. So it slows the amount of time it takes food to leave the stomach and go to the intestine. So you feel fuller faster and you feel fuller longer. It changes your relationship with food so that you don't crave it as much necessarily. It's meant to be used as a tool, not a complete solution to weight loss. But we have found that there's just been incredible benefits to using this medication as opposed to what we used to use in the past.
And workout and diet and all that is still a huge factor to that.
Correct. So if you were to use medical weight loss, so if you were going to take semaglutide, for example, take semaglutide, it changes your appetite and you do nothing else along with that. Will you lose weight? Yeah. People do. It changes your appetite so you don't eat as much. But the overall long-term result of that is not good. You're going to lose muscle mass. You're not and then if you stop the medication, if that's the only thing you changed, you're going to end up getting that weight back. Yeah. So how I describe it to patients, because I really don't want them to just rely on that like this is the solution. I say this is a tool. If you were to hire a personal trainer or you were to sign up for some sort of meal plan, those are all tools to help you get to your goal of losing weight or having a more healthy body composition. Semaglutide can be used just the same. It's a tool. So the way I look at it is it takes that food noise down so that my cravings or urge to have sweets or more food than I need quiets down. And then it allows me to be more focused on what I should be eating. And I am adamant about the exercise and describe that it is a tool meant to help you get to your goal, but that's going to make diet a lot easier. And then once you kind of start losing weight and have more energy, then you're going to exercise more as well. But it's crucial that you keep exercising.
Do you have more of like a program where they're getting nutritional information along with maybe some recommended diet type exercise plans?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So one thing that we do that I feel like is a little bit unique, and I think it's crucial, one of the big, I guess, jumping ahead a little bit here is myths is that you're going to lose muscle mass if you are on semaglutide. Semaglutide or any other GLP-1, but I'll just say semaglutide for the ease of the conversation. But semaglutide is not a muscle-eating Pac-Man. It's not like you take it and it goes after your muscle. But if you're going to put yourself in a caloric deficit and you do nothing to build or maintain your muscles, you're going to lose muscle.
Right.
Absolutely. So can it happen? Sure. That's if you're not doing it right.
Right.
So we have in our office, which I recommend anybody that's offering medical weight loss in their practice, that they have a body impedance scanner. And what that does is when we start somebody on a program, we put them on the scanner and it measures their visceral fat, their body fat, as well as their muscle mass, not just all over their body, but in the individual limbs and the trunk. So we can get that score and see where they're at. And then as they're going along the program, we check in monthly and make sure that they're not losing that muscle mass, because sometimes the number isn't always on. The number on the scale isn't indicative of a change in a body composition, because we all know that muscle weighs more than fat.
Right.
So that kind of helps tell them like, hey, that composition's changing in the right direction. But it also helps me keep them safe and that they're not losing muscle mass. Because if they are, I back off the medication. We have more education about nutrition, exercise, diet. But to answer your question, yes, we actually have them come in once a week, at most every other week, for their shot, so that we continue to have that conversation. We check in with them. We check their weight. We make sure that they're doing the right things, answer questions, and then catch anything that might be concerning.
And I think that's really important, because sometimes people just want to chase and get the cheapest price, but what are they getting with that, you know? And so if you're not using the tool correctly, like you said, you're just going to be creating a whole other plethora of issues.
And that's this. I could go on and on about this. This is kind of my hang up with
like virtual appointments,
virtual visits.
Just,
and I know there's some practices that you can literally call them and go pick up semaglutide.
Right.
And they will give you like a printed off instruction sheet that they've given to every single person. And you can take it home and give it yourself. And that's where a lot of problems come with this medication, because you can look on social media and you could search adverse outcomes of semaglutide or GLP-1s. But if you really were to take the time to look at the details, if it was available, you would see that it was probably used inappropriately. If it's supervised by a healthcare provider, it's titrated appropriately, they're using it appropriately, it's completely safe, and it's got massive benefits to it.
So I feel like there's a lot of wrong knowledge out there.
Right.
What's the word?
For sure.
Yeah, misinformation.
Misinformation.
And now, like,
about-
I've seen the data with, not just diabetes, but heart failure patients, and just how all of that.
It does have a FDA approval for reducing risk of cardiovascular disease in not only diabetic patients, but also in patients who are overweight or have obesity. And the reason for that is, I'll back up. And so inflammation is the main cause of cardiovascular disease. It's constant inflammation in our body, and over time it eventually wears out because it can't handle that amount of stress for a long period of time. A large part of that inflammation is our diet, so processed foods, and particularly
Sweets.
glucose, sugar, right? So as we talked about before, semaglutide or GLP-1s are initially indicated for diabetic patients. And so what it does is it doesn't lower your blood sugar. It really just prevents it from getting high. So even if somebody wasn't necessarily needing to lose a ton of weight and really just wanted to feel better, or they wanted to maintain their weight, you could take it at what we call microdosing, small amounts. It lowers your inflammation. It kind of keeps that food noise away and keeps you honest for eating the things you should. Mm. You could walk past, like for me, my favorite thing in the world is like chips and queso. So if I was, if I was like, okay, I need to lose some weight, or I need to slim down or lean down a little bit, and then somebody brought out chips and queso, like all of that's gone. Yeah. I'm going to eat my weight in it and not care about it. When you're on semaglutide, you can take a few bites and then you just don't want it anymore. Yeah. So it just takes that burden away. People say that the food noise just quiets. So
speaking of food, is there any kind of food that you need to have, like extra protein?
Great question. So sometimes I'll get people back. I'll get people back in the office after we've started them on the program. Maybe it's a month later, maybe 2 months later, and they complain about fatigue. I'm really, really tired. Well, 99% of the time, it's because maybe they're on a little too high of a dose and they're literally not eating. Yeah. And so I ask them, okay, let's talk about what you're eating. Well, I'm not eating much. Okay, when you do eat, what are you eating? Well, then people go for something that's convenient, right? A handful of chips or something like that, or something at a fast food restaurant. So I tell them, okay, you're eating less, great, but now is the time when you need to focus on eating the things that give you the essential nutrients that you need. So the reason you're tired is because you literally haven't given your body any fuel that it can use. So be intentional about creating snacks that are healthy for you, like almonds, avocados, eggs, chicken. Like have some good, wholesome food. And the thing is, it's easier to eat that because you're not as hungry. So when you go to the restaurant, if you're famished, you're going to be like, I know I should have the chicken and broccoli, but I really, really want the hamburger or the chicken steak and gravy and potatoes or something like that. When you're on a GLP-1, you really have no problem choosing the healthier option that's going to give you the best benefit. It's really not hard to do.
That is.
Education is key, though.
Yeah,
so
for sure. I don't think there's enough actual education
I would agree.
out there. And I don't think enough practitioners or offices are doing the follow-up.
I agree.
Because a lot of the clients that do come in, they're like, oh, I'm doing this, but I'm not. And I'm just like, I feel like there's something missing.
Yeah.
Besides
and
just
I hear a lot
doing
of people getting nauseous off of it, and that you need that education.
Yeah. So nausea is because we're slowing gastric emptying, so food is staying in the stomach a little bit longer. So you're going to have an increase in your stomach acid. So that's a potential. That's probably the most common side effect. That can be if they're titrated appropriately and slowly, you can avoid that. Now, some people it doesn't matter what you give them; they're just nauseated. We will put them on like an H2 blocker, which is like Pepcid or something like that, and that just kind of regulates that stomach acid. I definitely don't, in general, advocate for more medication, but in that instance, there's really very low risk with something like an H2 blocker. If that's going to help them with the side effect, it's not a bad idea.
So, okay, what is like the most common one that you see patients getting?
Semaglutide is the most common. That's the one that's been around the longest. The brand name of that is Ozempic and Wegovy. Ozempic and Wegovy are the exact same thing. Ozempic is indicated for control of diabetes, and I think the dose goes to 1 milligram, whereas Wegovy is the exact same thing. It's just indicated for a higher dose, 2.5 milligrams weekly, for obesity. It's just we've found that if you increase the dose, and patients have more weight loss. However, patients have great weight loss staying under 1 milligram.
Is it something that like, do you have a favorite one that you like the best, or is it more of it's really person dependent? It's
person dependent. The two that you'll see the most common are semaglutide and tirzepatide. Semaglutide works on one receptor and tirzepatide works on two receptors. So anybody that cannot tolerate semaglutide, meaning they're nauseated or they're just not losing weight, will switch to tirzepatide. And the reason I do that is because tirzepatide is actually more expensive in general. So if I can get a patient with good tolerance and successful, feels good, losing weight on semaglutide, I'll just keep them on that because that's more cost effective for them.
Oh, okay.
At what point do they typically go on a maintenance dose, or like
That was
once
my
they
next
just get to their
question.
kind of desired?
So a lot of people worry about like, okay, let's say somebody came in and they lost 30 pounds. And they're like, well, I don't really want to be on this medication forever. What do I do next? There are options for that. One, you can just stop it. There's no consequence of that. Are you going to get more hungry? Yes. But it's easier for patients to maintain a certain weight than it is to lose weight, right? There's a lot of work and effort put into losing weight, and you get discouraged easily.
Yes.
So you can just stop it completely. That's one option. The other option is to back off the dose. So let's say that person was at 1 milligram. We might back them off to 0.75 milligrams weekly. The other option is stretching them out lengthwise, meaning like instead of once a week, we're doing every 10 days or 14 days. So Ozempic originally, or semaglutide, I'm using this word interchangeably a lot, GLP-1s, when they were first approved, which is about 15 years ago, so it's been a long time, they were indicated for long-term use. So you can use them chronically, meaning it is safe to take that medication indefinitely. Am I necessarily advocating for it? No, I'm not saying you have to do that, but it is safe to do so. And we know, and people, that's something you also see on social media, is that it has these bad things. I'm like, if it's been around for 15 years and we've been using it
Right.
for
Well,
chronic
what's crazy
disease
is
management.
you say it's been around 15 years, but like so many people are like, oh, this new thing.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Correct.
and
Now
so
the,
it just seems like it's been new.
it does, because the indication for weight loss is new.
Right.
But the medication itself has been around for a really long time. So it's safe. I mean, if it wasn't, if people are growing brain tumors, we would know it by now.
Right.
But so I actually advocate for, I honestly think, and this might be an unpopular thought, I honestly think everybody should take a little bit of it once a week, like a little microdose. It's anti-inflammatory. It's going to help with staying focused on eating the right things. You can have a microdose and not lose weight. I do. I take it. I take a small dose every 2 weeks. I'm not trying to lose weight, but the benefits it gives me, the reduction of inflammation, and I can see on labs, I can see people's CRP level decrease, which is a marker for inflammation. I can watch it decrease. So, I mean, there's options of which way you wanted to go.
Well, and I have PCOS, and actually my nurse practitioner said that she thought that I would get benefits from a small dose.
100%. So PCOS, one of the main problems with that is insulin resistance. You are at more risk for developing diabetes.
Yep.
And what I hate is when, you're going to get me on all sorts of like tangents here. I hate when in modern medicine, we wait until there's a problem to do something about it, right? So you go into your healthcare provider and you say, and they do your labs, right? Your annual exam, do your labs, and then they go, okay, well, everything looks fine. See you back in a year, right? And we do this over and over again until
there's a problem.
Now you have a problem.
Right.
Now we're really good at managing that.
Right.
Right. So now we're like, for sure, I know what to do with diabetes and I know what to do with hypertension, but really it's too late, right? Can we reverse it? Yes, but it's so much harder.
Right.
Whereas, why can't we do things preemptively and preventatively now? Like if we put all the money into what we do with treating disease and put it into preventing disease, can you imagine how well people would live for a long time? So like PCOS, we know that's insulin resistance.
Right.
We know that. So yes, you absolutely should be on a GLP-1. It's going to help keep that blood sugar regulated. You're going to feel better, and you're not going to gain weight, which is really common with PCOS.
Yeah, because it's definitely, you fluctuate. I mean, I know once I get over a certain weight that the next 10 pounds will come on overnight, but I have to just kind of stay below that and just teeter there for
and
a
guess
while.
What insurance isn't going to do? They're not going to approve you to have that medication unless you have the problem.
Right.
So we have to wait until
it becomes
you've deteriorated enough
right.
to do something about it. And I just think that's backwards in medicine right now.
I agree.
So have you ever put anybody on it just for inflammation purposes?
Absolutely. I have a few people just for inflammation. It actually helps with, it makes you not want to drink alcohol. So I have a few patients that have struggled with alcohol abuse disorder, and this has helped them significantly, which is like changed their entire life.
Yeah.
I've seen that completely changed. My dad's been doing it, and he swears by it.
Yeah.
Yep. And then the other one is bulimia. So bulimia is where the patient will binge. I was thinking for the word binge a bunch of food and then throw it up or something like that. So I have a couple patients who are on semaglutide to help with binge eating disorder. and they're making more progress with their therapy and their life, and they're losing weight because like part of the weight gain is what's affecting their mental health. So they're losing weight. They have less desire to binge, and they're getting better overall. So we're finding more and more situations where this medication is actually helping more than the harm that some people claim it does.
So what's crazy is I do horses. We've all established it's been a heck of a morning for horses. But all of my friends that are watching this, we spend hundreds of dollars a month to keep inflammation out of the horse's body because it causes ulcers. There's a lot of things that it can cause with horses. So if we put that into ourselves, like the importance of keeping our inflammation down is huge. And I've done a lot of research in this over the last year because I have dedicated a lot of money and time into keeping inflammation out of my horse's body.
Correct.
And how much it's helped with that. That was like, I got to start doing that for me.
Correct.
And so I could see where a lot of my friends would be like, oh, maybe this would not be bad.
And it's educating yourself.
Because there's a lot of bad stigma around.
There is, but
really
that's
is.
why I love that we're talking about this today and educating people, because they do. They read one bad story and then that just skews their whole
Right. And a lot of people think
it.
it's cheating.
That's what I was about to say. There's so much conversation around this being cheating to get skinny.
If you hire a personal trainer, technically, if that's your description,
a chef,
is employing a tool to be healthier, then it's cheating, right? I guess you could call it cheating if they're just taking the medicine, they're doing nothing else, but they're just doing themselves a disservice.
They're damaging their body.
And some people really do have a hard time losing weight.
Absolutely.
Oh, don't even get me started on hormones then.
Oh, yeah. That's for our next topic.
Oh my gosh. Social media because when we decided to bring Kim on, I did a little bit of research on social media. Like once you start looking up stuff, like social media pops up everywhere. And so my For You page on TikTok was all about like how just go work out. Just go do this. And some people really do. They do it and they still can't get the weight off.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad thing to help those people really get the weight off whenever it makes their lives better.
Correct.
It'll make, in the long run, their whole end of life so much better. Like their whole entire time. Because you have to be healthy.
So there's a difference between, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
Lifespan and health span. So your lifespan is literally how many years you're alive, but your health span is how long you're living well and healthy.
Right. That's a big difference of those two.
And in medicine, we focus on lifespan. How long can we keep this person with congestive heart failure alive?
Right.
Right. But why don't we focus on health span and keeping that person healthy for as long as possible, so we're not just keeping them alive, so to speak. So
I love it.
So one last thing I really want to hit on is realistic expectations. People that go into, I want to start semaglutide. What are some realistic expectations for patients?
I like my patients to lose weight at a rate of 1 to 2 pounds per week. If they're more than that, they will be less successful in the long term. So the body does respond to a caloric deficit or a drastic change in your weight as a stress, and it produces more cortisol, which cortisol tells our body to pack on and store, because cortisol is a stress response, right? We are supposed to have some cortisol. It's higher in the morning, it's lower in the afternoon, and lower in the evening. But if you lose weight too fast, you'll plateau and you'll just be stuck. So I tell them to expect 1 to 2 pounds per week. People get greedy and they want, there might be 1 week where they dropped a bunch, right? Like 4 pounds. And then now they have this expectation.
And they think that
they're going to be dropping 4 pounds a week. Yeah.
And everybody's different. I have people that drop early and then kind of taper off a little bit, slow down. And then I have people that go through several weeks of really not seeing much weight loss, and then they kind of drop. So the expectation is everybody's different, and just because your friend did it and they lost this much weight in this much time frame doesn't mean that's what's going to happen for you. There's a lot of factors that go into that.
Right.
Yeah. So I started this with Lauren, who is the facial plastic surgeon here, and we were talking about surgery candidates and red flags and potential patients. And I thought that was so I decided I'm going to start asking most of our guests here that when you have a new patient come in, do you have any patients that red flag, this may not work for them because of the way they're expect or their thought process or anything like that?
I would say people who have a history of eating disorder, not necessarily bulimia. We talked about that, but maybe I've been on phentermine and I've, not necessarily that excludes them because people are trying to lose weight, but if they tell me that they don't eat anything, that's my favorite. They're like, I'm not losing weight, but I literally don't eat all day long. I only eat this. Okay, well, this is not a good medication for you because I need you to eat still. Like if appetite's not a problem for you, then an appetite suppressant isn't a solution for you.
Or I want to lose 5 pounds by next week because I have a wedding to go to. I mean, that's
correct.
People say things like that all the time.
People who have just unrealistic expectations in general. Body dysmorphia is another one people who have just unrealistic vision of their own body and their presentation. That one I would be careful with.
I had a good question and I totally just. Are you ever worried of people abusing this? Is there a way to abuse this?
I think you could take too much of it, but you will suffer the consequences for sure. It is a titrated dose, so it starts really low and then we gradually titrate the dose up. If you go up too high too quickly, you'll make yourself sick. And I think if people, even if they titrated slowly, if they maintained a dose high enough that they really weren't eating anything, then that would be abusing it because you need to eat something. But really, they're just hurting themselves at that point.
Yeah. Right. Which that question came to mind because I did have someone bring that topic up with it. And I was like, that is a really good point.
Yeah.
But
there's really not, it's not a controlled substance. That we have substances that are controlled, but that one is not. You definitely could misuse it, and that's really where all those problems come from.
Because some people, weight loss is an addiction.
Yeah.
Like some people's like, it feels like I'm addicted to getting skinny.
Correct.
That was
and I'm just like,
whenever somebody gets to the weight loss that they want, like, do you stop them or do you lower the dose?
It's kind of up to them and what they want to do. I'm okay with continuing it. I do definitely lower the dose. So I either lower the dose weekly or I stretch out their intervals in between.
Okay.
And usually they're great with that. Like, they're on board with that because they're so excited about the weight that they lost. I have had a few people that I've cut down or stopped because they were getting their BMI was getting, and we have a cutoff BMI. I'm like, it's getting too low that I'm comfortable. It's not healthy for you. You're losing muscle mass.
And I feel like that's where you need to have a professional keeping you.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
in
huge.
line and in check.
I agree.
Just like any other form of this. Like, I feel like you need someone to be like, enough is enough. We have hit a wonderful goal, and this is kind of what we need to try to maintain.
And we require people to come in at certain intervals to catch that, because you could give somebody a vial and say, okay, well, this will last you so long, and then they just get greedy with it. So we have them come in at least once a month. Sometimes people that have been with us for a really long time and they're really on chronic, like long-term management, we'll see them every 3 months and then check in. And we haven't really had any problems with that. But people that are new, we're pretty diligent about getting them in the office and checking for that.
Well, that is awesome. I think this was a wonderful conversation.
I agree.
Yeah,
and there is still,
awesome.
I feel like, so much that we need to reach with it,
Right.
because there are always so many questions with it.
And it's ever changing,
Yes.
and new diagnoses for it,
And I definitely appreciate being invited to talk about it, because this is like my crusade with this medication, because I think it can change lives in a good way. It's a healthy thing to do, but people just lack the education on how it works.
That is where we're like, she has to come in, because there is so much misinformation out there. And there's also just so many different, it's something that needs to be talked about a little bit more.
I agree.
Yeah.
All right. Well, a huge thank you.
Thank you.
And we do all of our social medias is in the description box to follow everyone. But Kim, why don't you tell us where we can find you?
So if you go to horizonmedspaandwellness.com, you can find our website there. Like I said previously, we have an office in Shawnee. It's off Midland and 435. And then we are also building our second location on the plaza, which should be open May 1st.
Oh,
Which also, you're like, you have a laser? Or Kristen was telling me about how you're like one of the biggest laser or something.
So I have... I think what she's referring to is I am one of the national clinical trainers for InMode, which is a company that makes some aesthetic devices. So I travel around the U.S. Training other providers on how to use some pretty hefty equipment.
Yes, and that will be something we have to touch in the future because it
sure.
is. I just couldn't remember the name of it. Sorry about that.
Yeah, that's okay. Probably the most common, the most familiar name is Morpheus8.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we'll have to bring her back and talk about that. Heather, Instagram, not TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all of it.
Midwest Aesthetics Injections by Heather.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And then you catch us on Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Pod. And Anna, okay, so everyone go follow Anna. She is making her own aesthetics Instagram page, and we need to grow it. She's starting all of her stuff with us. So Anna, what is your Instagram?
It's Timeless Beauty by Anna.
I guess I didn't give mine. So I have my med spa is Horizon_med_spa_wellness. And then my personal professional is Kimberly Losik, NP.
Okay.
And follow or go join our Facebook group, AA Skin Babes Facebook group. We will be putting a lot of information on there. Also, Kim has a PDF we will be putting in the description below. So if you leave a comment, we will send you this. What is on that PDF?
PDF is going to have information about pricing and information about our wellness consult. I like to call it a wellness consult because we talk about a lot of things. Weight loss isn't just one dimension.
Mm-hmm.
There's several dimensions to it. Like I talked about hormones, cortisol, gut health, and so on and so forth. So we'll just information how you could book a wellness consult. It's just a time to sit and talk with one of our healthcare professionals, which is myself, and I have 2 other NPs. So we can really do a deep dive into what your barriers are and how you're feeling and why you're feeling that way and create a comprehensive solution.
And at some point, we will have her back on the podcast. So make sure you leave any comments and questions you have for her next time we have her on the podcast.
Definitely.
So this is Lena, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.